Well, Olga, thank you so much for joining me today. This is going to be a fun conversation. I feel like we've been talking about all these different topics while we are having our coffee, anyways. Now we're just making it official. So, before we get started, I wanted to just ask you, how are you doing? I know it's been a pretty busy semester for you with all the remote learning.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. It's been busy. It's been definitely busy. Half of my classes are actually in person, so I get to be on a campus as well. So it's definitely busy, but I'm enjoying it.
hmm And this is your official first semester with this new school, correct?
Correct. This is my first semester at Colorado School of Mines.
Nice, nice. And you know, I when I think about the graduate school search and application process, a lot of my students after they finish undergraduate degree, they think about graduate school, whether it's the right fit for them or not.
Mhm.
And whenever they start thinking about seriously applying, there's always a lot of information that either is hidden or, I'm not sure. Like it's kind of difficult to navigate at all. So before we dive into the graduate school search and application process, which I think you are more than qualified to talk about because you've done it several times,
Twice, well, three times now.
three
Yeah.
times exactly. So, share with us a kind of a snippet, a summary of your educational journey from undergraduate to where you are now.
Mhm. Well, I would say my route is not very traditional. I finished my undergrad in Ukraine, National University of Life and Environmental Sciences, so pretty much agriculture. Um, After that, I had an internship in Denmark. So from Ukraine, I went to Denmark, and while working in Denmark, I started thinking, what do I want to do next? Um, Master's degree was just like one of the options. I could still, go work or even maybe try staying in Denmark and continue working there. But after some time, I decided I want to go and do graduate school. I feel like that's the first step. You want to do grad school, you need to be sure that that's what you want to do because that's not
Mhm.
easy. It's not paid as much, right? So it's very serious commitment that you need to be ready for. Once I made that decision, next step for me was to decide where to go. And don't limit yourself to your, hometown colleges. And at that time, I was in Denmark. I wasn't even home. And my first idea was actually checking universities in Europe. And I really wanted to go either Italy or Spain. I was lucky enough to have friends in both countries, and at that time they were students. So I just started texting or messaging on actually Facebook, asking them about the programs, about the funding, how it all works. Really,
Mhm.
I the information I was getting was from my friends and from people I know. That's how I found out that actually both countries are not doing very well at the time, or were not doing very well at the time financially, and a lot of funding were cutted even for
Mhm.
local students, and they were saying that they are really struggling to get support. And I knew that I would not be able to support myself and pay for master's degree by
Yeah.
myself. That's how I remember that I have another friend who is also European, but he did his master's here in the States. So I
Mm.
messaged him and asked how did that go and if he liked the program. I think at the time he was about to graduate. That was his like last semester, last year. Um, when he messaged me back, he was so happy with the program, and I was like, "Well, that's the university I want to go to." I That was the University of Tennessee, the program of agricultural economics, and that was the university I applied for. So
Yeah,
once
it
I
was
came,
even similar with your undergrad, right?
yes.
And
So I feel like that was very important for me to have it connected, to have that
Mhm.
there is a logic why I'm going for a master's
Mhm.
degree.
And
Yeah.
what I want to highlight here do the informational interviews, reach out to the people that you know are going through graduate school already and get their input, see what's going on in this country, in this university, and kind of get a feel for that. So because that is what helped you make that decision for yourself in terms of
Yeah.
University of Tennessee. Hmm.
Yeah, and I would say even more, if you don't have at the moment friends who are going through grad school, check LinkedIn, check graduate student on LinkedIn. Trust me, many people will respond. Maybe not everybody, but many people will tell you, yeah, I'm enjoying the program, or no, I'm struggling here, or, you know, it doesn't have to be your friend, someone you really know. Just try anyone, and people are pretty responsive.
And I agree with this too. I know when I was thinking about going to graduate school here in the States for higher education program, there are even Facebook groups for future higher education professionals, and you can go in there, and all these different schools have their sort of representatives there who are happy to answer questions about the program in school X, Y, and Z. So resources are limitless, right? There are so many things with the internet. So I'm very happy we live in this day and age. So, okay, so you went to University of Tennessee. Let's kind of stop here and talk more about the application process now that you have decided I'm going here.
Hmm. I agree. It's not always very straightforward what exactly needs to be done, or if there is a funding available, will you have an assistantship, will you have a fellowship. Um, so next step, definitely research the universities. I would say you decided to do grad school, decide what do you want to do. And I wouldn't say if your undergraduate is in chemistry, you must go for chemistry. No,
Mhm.
like I am in a situation right now, my PhD has nothing to do, or almost nothing to do, with my master's or my bachelor's. I finally found, what I really want to do, and that's okay. There are a lot of people doing PhDs in programs that are not related to their undergraduate or graduate school. So I feel like the most important thing is find what you really love, what you want to do with your life. So don't base it on like, well, I did chemistry, I have to go for that. No. Um, you decided you want to go, you decided what you want to study. I would say next step, research programs. So which universities do offer what you want to do? Besides that, another important step is what kind of research professors are doing? Is there something that you are actually interested in as well? So you have, the program, but also in mind a person you would love to work with. And it doesn't have to be like that. If you have no idea what you want to do, that's fine as well. But at least have a sense of, there are some universities that are very focused on teaching. You go grad
Mhm.
school and they are very focused that after that you will go teach. If teaching is absolutely something that you do not want to do, that's probably not a good program for you, not a good choice. Um, and then there are other universities that are very focused on research, and if that's your interest, go ahead. You choose university, you choose the program, research, spend time on their websites, read a lot. Also, every program have a representative. So I think they usually call like graduate school or graduate
Mhm.
student director or something like that. Reach out. They're very responsive. Always answer emails. Make a list of whatever questions you have for anything you did not find on a website. I was straight asking, would there be funding available? That was a big thing for me. Um, and yeah, they would respond. Don't be afraid. Don't be shy. If the information is not
To
there, if
reach
it's hard to
out.
find, reach out.
Yeah.
Just email.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of this, in the US, education is very expensive. And so a lot of students that I work with, they go to undergraduate here and they get a bachelor's with already some student debt. Less, more, it depends on their situation. So a lot of students are very hesitant to continue education and get into more debt. So this is a very important point to make is if you are kind of willing to put time and kind of research into this, you can find programs that do provide funding, which could be full tuition and then some stipend. It could be
Mhm.
fellowships, like you mentioned, that you have to additionally apply for. Yes, it will be a lot of work on the kind of before you even start the program, but it's totally worth it graduating with a very minimal financial kind of debt, I would say.
Yeah, in grad school, we say if it doesn't pay, it's not worth it. Make sure that you find programs with funding. And trust me, there are many programs with funding. Oftentimes we think, well, STEM is pretty hard to get into and hard to get assistantships or scholarship. They are available. They are there. There are programs that do offer support to students. So just make sure you do your research.
Hmm. Agreed. So when we talk about the application process itself, you obviously had to provide them with a, you know, packet of documents, one of which is the personal statement. And it's one of those things that students always kind of nervous about because we are applying to be future chemists, future economists, future whatever, but not English writers, right? So can you share your experience with writing personal statements? Because this is something that I'm helping students on daily basis with,
Mm-hmm.
and I just want to see what would you say your approach is for specific programs, right?
Right. Um, Definitely research what the university asks for. That was news for me. I didn't know. But sometimes universities actually specify what they expect to hear from you in the personal statement. Some universities, well, that wasn't written on the website. I found out it just from reaching out to a professor who was not even a graduate um, student's representative or director. He was just one of the professors in the department. I talked to him in person once, so I felt comfortable to email him just to kind of get inside information. And one of the things he told me was that for that university, it's very important to know why did you choose exactly them. So flattering works. Not every university will be like that, but that particular one, I spent at least a paragraph pretty much writing how great they are and why I would love to be, part of their school. Um, Definitely research online. There are many blogs and articles about it. I feel like all the statements still have a general structure. There's always introduction. Why did you choose the school, the program? Why do you want to do that? There is always a part where, well, why do you need that? How did you come into idea that you want to do grad school exactly here? What do you want to do with that grad school? Why do you need it? What will be your next step? So it's definitely good to have an idea what do you want to do with your career, with your life, and how that grad school plays the role in your goals for the
Hmm.
future. And obviously, you close with thinking and
Yeah. And when I'm thinking about, graduate programs, obviously, if a student is applying for several different schools, let's say three, five schools, you would want to make sure that your personal statement is, slightly different to, like you mentioned, talk about their school, why their program, what are you excited about, what do you bring to their community, right? And things like that. Um, so when you were at the University of Tennessee, did you end up getting full tuition waiver, some stipends, fellowships? How did that work out? Could you share more about that?
yeah, at the University of Tennessee, I had my tuition was covered completely, including health insurance. That's something I didn't know before. Some schools do not cover health insurance, and they are expensive. It was covered there. I also was a research assistant, so I got an RA and had a stipend every month that I could support myself on.
Awesome. And when you say that you had the research assistant position, I'm guessing they had teaching assistant, research assistant, maybe even some programs had graduate assistant. Could you share what your role was about? What does that mean to be a research assistant?
At the University of Tennessee, we had two options: research assistant or teaching assistant. Usually, PhD students were getting TA, and masters would get RA. As a research assistant, you work with a professor. Usually, they match you based on your interest. So when I was applying at the time, I was going for agricultural economics, and I was interested in ag economics policies. So I was matched with a professor who is working in that area or was working at the time. And he was my advisor. I was just working for him. He had different projects. Sometimes it would be literature review. He would send me, hey, I'm researching this topic. I want to know more about it. So you find all possible articles, you go, you read them, and you summarize to give him, a big picture, what is there right now on the topic that he wants to get into.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just, yeah, working for the professor, helping him out with whatever is going on in his research.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And when you talk about, research assistant position, that is probably different from, like you mentioned, PhD program. So let's say you're now done with your master's degree. Here's the question. Do you feel like the master's degree, coursework wise, prepared you for your future career? Or do you feel like the research assistant position, maybe some internships that you had or other project work that you did, helped you with the further kind of career path? Because one thing that I always struggle with is it enough to just go and get your master's and just do all the classes, or do you have to do some extra work to maybe enrich your resume when you're graduating?
I would say definitely beneficial to do stuff outside school. Um,
Hmm.
if it's possible to get internship during the summer, do it. Do go out, get the professional experience, even if that's not the industry you want to work with in, just to get that professional experience, know how stuff works. Um, the school and job, that's very different, two different environments. That's why actually after my master's, I took a break and I went to work. I wanted to work. I wanted to find out where I want to be, what I want to do. I work in both research settings. I work in industry settings. I'm amazed by people who, early know what exactly they want to do, where they want to work. For me, I want to try. I thought I would be happy in research and, doing research. I tried it. I was like, I wonder how it is actually working for industry. Um, but that's just me. But
Yeah.
I feel like it's very good to actually go and try and
Mhm.
get the experience in besides your
Yeah.
just doing classes.
Exactly. I totally agree with that. We have this idea that we would love doing something. And I had this quite a bit, in the US, undergraduate students in certain schools or certain disciplines have an opportunity to get involved with undergraduate research or get internships when they're in junior, senior year. And I always emphasize that it's almost like a must. Do yourself a favor, get an internship. Do yourself a favor, get involved with research so you can kind of explore your options and know what's a better fit for you.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. There are also, I would say, beneficial, like different groups, clubs, especially if it is focused on like professional development.
Now, let's talk about, let's say you submitted all of your paperwork, which is usually like transcripts and references, and we talked about personal statement. Now what? What's happening after you submitted all of your documents? And I'm curious because I think that's different for master's and PhD. For my master's, I did have an interview week. So we had to go and interview with the graduate school faculty. We then had graduate school students in their second year that we interviewed with. It was more of kind of chance for me to get to know the program, the people that work there, and vice versa. Um, I wouldn't say that was determining factor in being admitted or not, but I want to hear your experience because you were applying for totally different areas, right? Economics,
Mhm.
stats, and math. So walk me through that.
Well, with the University of Tennessee, since I was in Denmark, I definitely could not just come and visit campus. Um, and actually, for that program at that time, and keep in mind that was 2010 when I was applying, um, I don't remember, I cannot recall having an interview. I was definitely emailing a lot back and forth with the grad student director, but there were no interviews.
Okay.
Now, later on, when I was applying for PhDs in statistics, some schools had interviews even before they would tell me whether I'm accepted or not. Well, no,
Hmm.
I think that was the first stage. So I knew I got in. I didn't know what the situation with the funding. And
Okay.
before they decide on funding, they would do interview, and that was over Zoom.
Okay.
Uh, the university I went to for a year, last year, I actually got to visit campus and we had like a in-person interview with the department head.
Hmm.
I also don't think that was like a moment where they decide whether you get in
Hmm.
or not. I feel like by that time you already know that you are accepted, but that's definitely a step before they decide on funding and decide whether you get an assistantship or not. And I know that students who were not able to come, they had to do the interview online.
Hmm. So it
Yeah.
sounds like in that particular program, not everybody who was accepted got funding. So you have to kind of fight for it, if you will.
Yes. So there
Yeah.
are, I would say, for now, well, from my experience, it's always a two-stage process. First, you need to be accepted. You need to be accepted by graduate school and by the department. Um, Graduate school is usually easier to pass because they are more technical. While you submit all the documents you need, you have uh, you meet all the requirements, whatever minimum GPA, whatever the grad school categories
Yeah.
are. The requirements by the department could be even a little different. Sometimes they even ask for more documents. Next step, pass the department. All right, you get into the department. Wait, you're not there yet. Third step is funding.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, it's definitely a process before you
Okay.
can exhale.
Yeah. And so now you decided once you had a few years of experience in the research and industry, now you're kind of getting a better feel for what you want to do. Can you help us understand when you made that decision and how you made that decision? It obviously didn't just dawn on you.
Well, actually, the idea to go for masters in the United States, that's exactly how it
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was walking dogs in the middle of the fields, and that's how it happened. But it took me like half a year thinking about it. Career wise, don't be afraid to change your career ideas or goals. What I thought I would do 10 years ago and things I want to do now are completely different. Um, I always liked math, but I always thought that I'm not good enough, or come on, I will never get into grad school mathematics seriously. But at the same time, I was always comfortable with it, and finally, it's like I'm brave enough to try what I really want to do. Um, Huge role plays people you talk to.
Hmm.
Some people will lift you up, some people will actually pull you down. So make sure you know who you talk to, and you know what's your cohort, and what kind of people you keep around yourself.
Yeah.
Reach out to people. Another thing I did before LinkedIn, you think you want to be I don't know, lab analyst, search for lab analysts on LinkedIn, reach out, ask about their jobs, ask about their experience. I did that several times. Not everybody responds, but at least a couple of people will respond. I feel
Hmm.
like that's the best way to know what it really takes, what really the job is.
Hmm.
Um, there are also great professors. Do not be afraid to talk to professors. They have connections. They know students. They know alumni. They know different stories and different experiences and careers of students getting after getting your exact degree. I would say talk to people. That's my
Hmm.
best advice.
Yeah. Now let's say you're applying to PhD programs, okay? Um, how was that different or similar to master's program? How was the process this time around now that we live in more virtual world with the Zoom,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe you had a chance to go to campus, maybe not, like.
I would say similar. Definitely, there's still same document package that you need to do. Also, pay attention for those who are not from United States. If you are coming from abroad, some programs do require your transcript be not just translated and certified, but you also need to use a company here in the States that has to approve that yes, this is acceptable,
Mhm.
which also takes about like 3 weeks. It was different for me because I was already in the United States. The program
Mhm.
I'm in right now, I did have a chance to visit the school twice. I was there during a conference when I presented my paper, and then second time during the campus visit. So I definitely knew exactly where I'm going, who I will be working with, you know, who will be
Yeah.
other students. So that was definitely a huge advantage. If you
Mhm.
have a chance to go visit, do that.
Mhm.
Sometimes you think, well, the program looks great online, and you come to campus and you talk to students and you talk to professors, and it just doesn't feel right.
Mhm.
So definitely go try. There are many
Mhm.
factors that play when you actually decide to go for it. Also, PhD, that's 5 years. That's not a year and a half or two. It's a long term commitment.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. And this time around, when you're applying to a PhD program, your criteria and search is slightly maybe different. How did you go about searching for researchers, the faculty that you want to work with? Um, were you pretty picky, or were you trying to envision yourself working with the research that they are working on? Like, how did it go for you?
I researched. So every campus, every university, or every department will have faculty page on their website. I
Mm-hmm.
went through every person.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, in our department, we have applied mathematicians and statisticians. Obviously, I'm focused on statistics, so I researched every professor um, that works in statistics and just checked. Sometimes I also check some of their articles just to get a feel, an idea what exactly they are doing, what exactly they are working on, and if there is
Mm-hmm.
anything interesting that interests me as well. So
Mm-hmm. Did you happen to reach out to any of the faculty members specifically in any of these schools?
yeah, I had different experiences. So the university I went to before, a professor I thought I want to work with, he never responded to me.
Mm-hmm.
But like department chair responded,
Mm-hmm.
some other professors, former department chair. In the program I'm in right now, I actually had a chance to talk to the professor during my after my presentation. I had a chance to talk to him for a few minutes, and that's how kind of I made that personal connection,
Yeah,
and was very comfortable emailing him after that.
that's awesome. Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
important to look for those opportunities if we can to connect on a personal level, whether it's campus visit or something similar to that.
Yeah, I would say definitely take advantage of all conferences. If you can present something, do get out, meet people, meet other professors, meet other students from other universities. Um, that personal connection is huge.
Hmm.
Um,
That's awesome. Well, I feel like we have walked through all the stages of the application process and the search for the programs. Is there anything else that you'd like to either share? Any tips and advice? When would you like? How early do you have to start the application before like I would guess maybe January you apply and then start in August. Just kidding.
it definitely takes, I would say it takes a year from the moment you decided I want to do this to the moment you will actually start. It takes a year. Um, I probably started, I feel like I started getting ready for exams during summer. Um, if you are foreign, you also have to take TOEFL, but there's also GRE. That's another thing. Make sure that you know the requirements and minimum scores you have to get. Definitely better to do the best you can. Um,
Mhm.
but at least you will know, what to expect. Some programs have really high requirements, so you probably need to spend a couple more hours every day studying for the exam. There's also that time when you research the programs and you email people, they email you back. You definitely create criteria that are important to you. One thing that I didn't think about before, like that, I guess that was the huge difference between the time I went to University of Tennessee and now I'm here at Grad School of Mines. I applied to the program. Honestly, I had no idea where Tennessee was. I've
Mm,
heard word Tennessee. Geographically, I had no idea where it is in the United States. I've never been to the United States. So I actually, after I got in, I checked where exactly I will be going to. So that was my new criteria here. I really wanted to be in Colorado.
mhm.
That was the place that is the place I want to live in. So I had this additional criteria for my universities and programs I was applying for
Yeah,
geographically. Yeah.
yeah. I totally agree with that. And on the other side, I have a lot of students who are, here in Colorado, Denver metro area, and they want to stay home. They don't want
Mm-hmm.
to leave. And I think in that respect, sometimes they're limiting themselves because there could be a perfect program for what they want to do in the state of Washington or
Yeah.
Indiana. So I think it's important to consider all the aspects because if you get awesome program with great faculty, full tuition benefits and stipend, it could be worth, traveling for 2 years somewhere else for this kind of awesome opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. But it definitely plays the role like where in life you are right now. Because if there is a spouse involved, a boyfriend, girlfriend, there are definitely things that might complicate the situation. It's also different. Are you going for a year and a half or are you going for 5 years for
Yeah,
PhD? So
yeah.
yeah, there are definitely things to think about.
I remember when I was applying to grad school back in 2013. I already was married and my husband had a full-time job and I was just this little girl still trying to figure out what I want to do. Well, my number one criteria was that I want to have full tuition waiver and I want to have a stipend. So I was willing to like relocate for those 2 years for the sake of not accumulating student debt in my case, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened. Found the program, Ohio, Nebraska, quite a long drive. My husband had to quit the job and kind of be unemployed for that year and a half, but we made it work, right? So, again, it's important to think about the priorities for you. And totally, each situation could be wildly different. But I
Mm-hmm.
guess that's why I love the idea of doing this project, the podcast, is because I bring different stories to the table because there's no one correct way of getting to your goal, I guess.
Not at all, not at all. There are many students who go bachelor's, master's, PhD.
Mhm.
I went bachelor's, I went for internship for a year, I went, to a different country, and then I went master's, and I worked for like 6 years, different areas. Then I was like, okay, now I'm ready. That's exactly what I want to do. And also, don't be afraid to. Sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes
Mhm.
you commit to the program, and it's just not a right fit. And sometimes you won't know that, from the beginning. Uh, it is. I won't say it's easy to transfer, but it is possible. I'm very happy I transferred. I'm very happy in the program I am in right now. It's definitely challenging, but I'm truly enjoying my time in grad school. So,
Yeah. And like you mentioned in your cohort and overall in the program, all the students are from different walks of life, right? Some have families with kids, while others are
mhm.
doing bachelor's, master's, PhD, whatever that is, right? But I guess that's what makes these graduate programs are interesting, the diversity of all the folks that you're interacting with, essentially.
Yeah, that's true. And in my cohort, a lot of people actually also come from like working in the industry or teaching. Um, Everybody have different backgrounds, different stories. We all work together. Um, it's
Yeah,
yeah, it's a great time.
yeah.
So I would totally recommend if grad school, if you think of grad school, do it. It's
Hmm.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just start early, right? At least a year and a half. Start researching schools, coming up with the points that are important for you, preparing for GRE if the program requires it, getting
Mhm.
to know all these programs, emailing them. Because I find that sometimes students start late and then it becomes a very stressful and overwhelming experience, which is not worth
Mhm.
it. So I totally agree. Start early and look for programs that pay for you.
Yes,
Please do yourself a favor. Don't accumulate more student debt. I'm so passionate about that, and I just want to emphasize that you're right. It's kind of sad to say, but if the program's not paying tuition waiver stipend, it's not worth it. You can always find a program that will provide those benefits.
exactly. And oftentimes it's not clearly on a website. Reach out to students, reach out to professors, administrators, and other people. Don't get upset if someone doesn't respond. Email to 5 people, at least someone will respond from them. But usually, from my experience, everybody are very, very responsive and friendly. So
Hmm.
just ask.
Yeah. Be proactive. Well, I
Mhm.
end each episode with asking the same question. I
Okay.
think I want to see the different responses that I'm getting from all of my guests. And the question relates to your college experience. It's either undergrad, graduate, whatever it is. I want you to think about the most impactful thing or event or a person. What was the most impactful thing about your college experience that might have encouraged you to do something? I don't know. Like, I don't want to give you the ideas, but I want to see what you found in your college journey most impactful.
It's interesting. I would say the most impactful moment was actually at my current university, even though I've been there since end of August?
August? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a little over a month. Um, just it's amazing how just one professor with their attitude or positioning to you can change your ideas of what you could actually do. Some people just inspiring,
Hmm.
or the professors treat you like, oh, of course you can do anything you want. Just that moment, I'm like, wait a second. I can do anything I want. I got into really good school. This
Yeah.
is awesome program. That's what I want to do for my life, for my career. That's one person, that's one professor, just the way he communicates with us during his class, just the way he teaches the class and challenges us, but also talks with respect and
Hmm.
inspiration. And every time it's like, well, will be useful for your career. These are the tools that you will use on your job. It's very practical, and I think that's why he's probably my favorite professor right now. Um, because I was always also struggling like how to connect the class and stuff you do in class with your job. There is oftentimes a gap. Well, you come to the job and you're like, oh, I have a degree in this and that, and
Yeah.
they're like, okay, do whatever, and you're like, oh, I've never seen that before. What exactly did
Yeah.
you do in your classes? Like, what exactly did they teach you? So I
Uh-huh.
definitely like the fact that this school is very focused on preparing you for your career, for your future and actual jobs, and giving you all the tools you need. Um, so yeah, that's definitely uh, my favorite part, or most impactful. That now I know what I want to do,
Yeah.
and that's thanks to that professor and the program I'm in.
Yeah. They already treat you as a professional. They're just there to guide you and kind of provide you with the tools, and the education that you're getting is really setting you up for success when it comes to future career goals. So that's awesome. Good to hear. And
Mhm.
I always find that it's uh, not to make a summary, but so far, all the people were saying it's the professor, it's the advisor, it's some person that kind of inspires you to strive for more, you know, challenges you in a good way. So that's good to hear.
Yeah, definitely talk to people, talk to students, talk to other graduate students, talk to students from other graduate programs. You never know who gives you an idea uh,
Yeah,
and changes your life. So
agreed. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Olga. I'll be sure to invite you sometime later once you have more experience in this program, because I know a lot of students are kind of wondering what it's like to be in a PhD program. So we
mhm.
have more things to cover for sure.